Okay, good afternoon. Welcome. This is the 10th or 11th, my virtual Jericho of this run. It's 5-ish. Today we're going to salute the local heroes. And the clue is in the name. It's the local businesses who've traded through the lockdown. They've kept us fed and more, and some have put their lives on the line. And many of those people are on very, very low pay. So we're going to salute them. A few, hopefully, in the course of the next half an hour or so, will appear on a camera in front of you. And then more have been invited. Not all have accepted. It's been an interesting experience. I mean, there's been a sort of a mild fear about being seen to say you've traded. I don't know why. If you want to ask a question, email me at johnmayer100@hotmail.com. First off, Loredana from G&D is the general manager of G&D. Is the woman who runs G&Ds throughout Oxford, all three shops. Is it, Loredana?
It is.
Three. So she keeps Oxford in ice creams. Why did you decide to carry on trading?
It's a good question. We've been around, G&D has been around for 28 years now, and COVID-19 has by far been our greatest challenge. But we felt it was very important to carry on trading for a variety of reasons. One of them was to have a pocket of normalcy, if that is a word, for customers, for staff, and our suppliers. Even being able to grab a cup of coffee for people has been something that has made them feel that everything wasn't changed overnight in such a drastic way. It gave them the um, a lot of them have been very grateful coming in saying, I'm so glad that you're open. It's made a big difference to us feeling that we can do some parts of our lives uh, in a similar way to before. One of our biggest products is ice cream. It makes people happy. It's one of the ultimate feel good foods. It puts smiles on people's faces, and we felt it's particularly important to do this in
How long did it take you to decide to stay open?
settling and uncertain. That's a good question. We saw the announcement come through. It was Sunday night. That was the drastic one on the 23rd of March. And it sounded like everything had to shut down. So we did. On the 24th of March, we shut down all our shops. Took us half a day. The guidance came up that day, was published that day, which made it clear that we could actually stay open with different operating rules, takeaway and delivery only. So we reopened our doors on that following Tuesday. So we geared everything back up on the 25th.
Because you'd actually examined what the guidance said and what the law said, because I saw it on your front door, hadn't you?
Yes, we did. We even published it and put it on the front door of all the shops and had it as a reference by the tills. Because I don't think it was understood by a lot of people that it was okay to carry on as long as you follow specific guidelines, which we did very carefully and spoke to the council about that as well in terms of making sure we were within the guidelines.
Did you have much blowback from people at all?
Some, but by far, it was very positive response. By far, people saying, "We're so glad you're there." Pocket of normalcy, normality, whichever word it is.
Yeah.
But also, we had families and the whole spectrum of people saying it's helped them stay sane in the lockdown period of just being able to come in, grab an ice cream, a coffee, or bagel. And part of it is, I know my own family got tired of my own cooking. It's nice to have an alternative of other kinds of foods around.
So the people that were giving you grief, what would they come in and say to you or say to your staff?
Sometimes it was a surprise. Oh, I didn't know you could say, how come you're open? I didn't know businesses could stay open. So then we would refer them to the highlighted passages from the government regulations. They said, oh, well, fair enough. Other people felt that we shouldn't be open at all and went so far as to tell the city council that we were open and how come we were.
So they went snitching to Oxford City Council on you, did they?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
But we had already cleared everything with them and they were very supportive and they said, no, they're within their legal right. They're doing all the things they should. So that's fine. Um, Again, it's been really a supportive uh, customer base that we've had. It's made a big difference to our staff morale as well. And that's part of the reason we stayed open as well, for our staff as well. Everybody that works at G&Ds now has chosen to do so. We've consulted with all the staff members, and they're there by choice. They too are happy to be here and feel like life carries on. Um, a lot of them, as you probably know, are very friendly, smiley people.
I know. I
They
can
make
buy
a
ice
big
creams there.
yes. They
I
make
buy
a
ice creams there.
they make a big difference to people's morale being around.
Tell me about your social distancing measures, because I mean, you had queues around the block on a hot day, didn't you?
Ah, oh, I wish we did have long queues. So what we do in the shops is we have designated spots where people can stand, which are well over 2 meters apart. And it's as soon as one person leaves, people move through the queuing system towards the till, and then we wait till that person's served and they move onwards. Outside of the shop, we also had more than 2 meters apart markers that were set up that kept people well apart from each other. It's misleading to think that, oh my goodness, they're so busy, because oftentimes it would mean one person in the shop or a family group, for example, and then you'd have the queue outside. But under normal circumstances, that would be greatly compacted. It's the social distancing that made it look much busier than it is. We're less than half of our normal sales.
And how has it affected your turnover? How well did you do?
We are less than half of our turnover. March, we dipped to, in the first lockdown period, we dipped to below 20%. April was around 25%. And May was unseasonably nice weather, so we crept up, but the beginning of June has been quite low as well.
Well, 50% is better than zero.
Well below 50%, I should say.
Yeah, okay, but that's still better than zero.
It is better than zero. But when you have high fixed costs, you have to meet a certain threshold
Was your landlord sympathetic?
to make it work. No, the landlord was not sympathetic. That's been one of the biggest challenges for us. They've been willing to make concessions in terms of timing, but no significant concessions in terms of the nature of the market has changed completely. We cannot use the space for what we're paying for. There's no eat-in, and the space is meant to be a sit-in cafe with an element of takeout. We're completely takeout with some elements of delivery as well, and the landlord's unwilling to make concessions.
We won't name them, but they're a large university based in a
Yes,
city near us, correct?
based in Wellington Square, but say no more.
Right. What did it teach you and indeed the customers about shopping local, do you think?
One of our staff members told me of a sign she saw, which I think encapsulates it very well, which is buy local or buy local.
And do you think that lesson will last, or are they back off to Westgate now?
It's hard to tell. I think everybody will be glad to have more options in terms of eating, shopping, everything, that as we're coming into more relaxed measures now, time will tell. I don't know if that's the case. What I do know is that we have had a very loyal and supportive customer base. And we have offered a 50% discount to NHS staff throughout the time period that we've operated. And I think a lot of people have greatly appreciated that. We've done care packages to the intensive care unit at the JR, and we feel being part of the community and supporting the community is a big part of what G&Ds is about. Just us as people personally, but businesses wise as well.
Are you in the G&Ds in Little Clarendon Street now?
I am. I was trying to find a background with cows on it.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I'm going to talk to Alan Tidy. Perhaps when I'm doing that, perhaps you turn the camera around so we can actually see. But Alan Tidy, who is the regional manager for the co-op, can you hear me?
Hi, John. Yes, I can hear you. You're right.
You're the regional manager for the Mid Counties Co-op for what's your empire?
So I've got 24 stores based mainly in Oxford, but they extend into the Vale of the White Horse and out into the Cotswolds. So out as far as Morton in Marsh and down as far as sort of Abingdon, Grove, that way. But most of my stores are in the Oxford area.
But you've been trading from day one, haven't you, from lockdown?
Yeah, we have. So, I mean, obviously being a food retailer, we didn't have to close. Counties as a business has been sort of impactedly quite widely. From a food perspective, we could obviously keep on trading, but obviously with lots of restrictions. But other parts of our business have been very seriously impacted. So travel, childcare, both of those have obviously had to close down for the period. They're just starting to reopen now. Funeral, that was sort of quite interesting, because you'd think that would probably see a boom at the moment, but actually the crematoriums really struggled. So actually our funeral departments as well were really struggling. So it's been a real difficult time for mid-counties overall as a business. But food has been one of the success stories, fortunately for us.
Now, Walton Street, is that one of your bigger stores, or is it a medium-sized store?
So usually it would be, yep. So turnover wise it would be. Obviously size wise it certainly isn't.
It could be bigger.
But yeah, turnover wise it's normally in my top 3 stores. So very good. But again, you know, we're very heavily reliant on the students in the Jericho area. So our Walton Street store's seen a 30% decrease in sales. And our Little Clarendon store has seen a 60%. Part of that, obviously, because we've had to reduce the hours in there. But yeah, some very significant drop-offs in our Jericho stores.
Now, ask me a question, nothing to do with lockdown. Why do you have 2 stores in Walton Street?
A decision made long before I took over. I've got no idea. It's very nice for me when I do visits, though, because I can get 2 visits done very quickly.
Yeah. I just always wondered. So you chose to get, but then you had an innovation where you actually started doing deliveries, because you know I ran a bus and then tried to get a click and collect system going and didn't really work. Why did you?
So we obviously set up a home delivery system for vulnerable people. You know, not just in Jericho, we've done that all across mid counties. So you know, we've got 220 food stores, and to date we've done just over 50,000 home deliveries to vulnerable and elderly people, which is amazing. And our Walton Street store has done over 300 of those. So since the start of April, the team in there have delivered to 300 people in the local area that you know either couldn't get out or were concerned about coming in shopping. So it's been great that we've been in a position to get out and help the community, which is essentially what the co-op's all about. So
your caring, sharing co-op, remember?
Exactly. Yeah. You know, that's the whole reason.
Is 300 the record for any of your 24 stores? Then is that the highest number?
No, so our Grove store holds the record. They're a big footprint store, so they're sort of a 15,000 square foot store. They're not a convenience store, and they've done over 700. But considering the size of the store and the number of colleagues we've got in there, Walton Street has done absolutely phenomenally. I think it's our 3rd or 4th highest on the district. So
what's the feedback from people who you've been delivering to?
Really positive. It's changed slightly over probably I would say the last 2 or 3 weeks. So initially when we started delivering, people were just so grateful we were doing it. The multiples, obviously trying to get a delivery slot with, you know, Tesco, Sainsbury's, it was impossible. So for people to be able to get their essentials from us, they were so grateful. And the majority of our customers are still that. Although we are seeing, like I said, a slight change in attitude over the last probably couple of weeks, but you know, we're not a business that's set up to do home deliveries. It's something we're doing to support the community at the moment. And we sort of made it clear that, you know, we can't give you a time slot. We can't say we'll try and, if you order it today, we'll try and deliver it today, but it might be tomorrow. You know, because obviously we've got to try and arrange it with running our store. Whereas now we're saying, you know, can you deliver it between 3 and 4 because I'm going out and doing.
There's a bit of ungraciousness creeping in. Is that what you're sort of?
Yeah. So we're actually working on a program at the moment, which is contacting all of our vulnerable and elderly customers that currently use the service, and then we're tying them up through head office, so we get a better relationship built with them through head office. But very close to the idea that you suggested, a click and collect, we're actually going to be doing a call and collect service. So for people that are still nervous about coming into our stores, we'll actually be offering a service where you can phone up. I think there's going to be 250 lines that you can pick from.
Right.
You'll be able to pick from those lines, and then come and collect that from the store at a suitable time. So it means that we'll be able to offer a lot more fresh products, a lot more frozen products, age-related products, which previously we weren't able to do because of removing those products off site. So hopefully that will be that.
And so will deliveries continue when lockdown is eased?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Will deliveries continue? Will you continue to deliver?
No. We're probably looking at maybe the end of the year. It has been set up as an emergency for our community. Once the pandemic is over, we don't have an intention to carry it on. It's not cost effective for us. We don't have the scale or the business to be able to do it. We're extremely fortunate that 60% across my division, 60% of our deliveries are actually done by volunteers. So again, it's probably not a sustainable model going forward when people start going back to their normal lives and their normal jobs and things like that. We'll have to look at winding it down. It is purely a reaction to what our local communities need at the moment, and making sure we can do everything we can for them.
Let me ask you what potentially quite difficult questions. I use your shop. Aaron tells me quite a lot of deliveries is to a posh part of Jericho. It's across the canal, and actually you're sort of Ocado and foot. Is that what you see?
I can't speak specifically for the store, so if that's what Aaron's told you, I'm sure that he's right.
I've got there. All right,
make it on tonight.
Your little Clarendon Street store hasn't delivered.
It hasn't. No. I mean, we've had operational issues in Little Clarendon, which is why we've reduced the hours and things like that. So,
they told me the machine didn't work when I asked.
Yes. So and again, when you look at the ranking of the stores within the district, our Walton Street store is our number one store in the area. So that would be the one that we would expect to step up and sort of take command of these sorts of things.
Coming out of the pandemic, if we are, do you think people are feeling more warm towards the co-op as a result of your actions?
I would like to think so, but as we move forward, people will have more choices. We've done as much as we could possibly do. More people have used us, which is great, but people will make their own choices based on their own personal circumstances. I would like to think that we've earned some goodwill and that some people will continue to use us. But equally, I fully understand that there are some people that they will need to make other choices in other places they shop based on their own personal circumstances.
Do you think the Rochdale pioneers would recognise you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think if you look at what we've tried doing particularly over the last 12 weeks, it hasn't been about the business. It has been about the community. It's about doing everything we can possibly do to support people, whether that's the way that we've set up our stores to try and protect people in there or our colleagues in there, whether it's the support funds that we've set up as a cooperative movement to support other local businesses and other sort of community-based projects. I think it's one of the times when you can really, really be proud of what we've done as a co-op. And even things like, and you sort of go back to the Rochdale pioneers and all the different businesses, even supporting other businesses. So we've really focused on trying to get more local suppliers into our stores. And you may not see that so much in Jericho because obviously the size of the store and the ranges that we're able to put in there. But certainly, you know, we've used a lot more local suppliers, and Alden's that's obviously just down Botley Road on the Osney Mead estate. We've been using those to supply a lot of our meat recently. So yeah, it's good.
Let me ask you about the staff. Have they been willing, and how have you protected them?
Staff have been absolutely amazing in almost every single store. You know, we've obviously got the government guidance on what we can do for people. So we took the decision straight away that if a colleague was pregnant, if they were over 60, if they'd received an NHS letter, if they were shielding with somebody else in their family, that they would obviously be allowed to be off work, and we've paid them 100% of their wages. Even before the furlough scheme came in, we made that decision that, you know, we would look after our colleagues in store if they weren't able to come in. But from the point of view of the colleagues that have remained, obviously we had to set up all of the point of sale within the store. So whether that's the stickers on the floor, the signs, high-vis jackets for them, the plastic coverings on the tills.
But that came relatively late, didn't it? I mean, it's only been there for a month or so.
No, so I was out delivering POS and personal protective equipment on the 1st of April.
Okay.
So we've had all that, and since the 1st of April, every store has had gloves, masks, visors, which not a lot of colleagues like wearing, but it is there as an additional thing. We've obviously had hand sanitizer. We've had customer hand sanitizers put in. We've had special cleaning fluids that have been tested to make sure they kill COVID.
Did any of your staff get sick?
So we have had several isolation incidents. I personally had it. So actually, at the start of April, I was off for 2 weeks with it, which was extremely unpleasant. But yeah, we have had isolated incidents across stores where colleagues have had it. We were fortunate that I'm just trying to think which stores. We've had 2 stores on my estate where we've had confirmed cases, because obviously until probably the last 4 or 5 weeks, actually getting a test was really, really difficult to be done. So we only had 2 confirmed cases, and in those cases we had to go in and deep clean the stores overnight to make sure that they were suitable to reopen. So
now you say they've been wonderful. Are you going to give them all a bonus?
Yeah, so they've all had bonuses. So for 8 weeks, they all had free lunches. So you're on a shift, you had a free lunch. They've all had a 10% increase on their base salary. Any hours they worked, they had an extra 10% for that. So we'll also be looking at giving them some additional colleague thank you vouchers that we normally give those in December, but they're looking at bringing a batch forward and giving to them sort of next month, so that they've got them to use over the summer, which would be nice.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Loredana, how have your staff been? Anybody been affected medically or mental health, as it's called these days?
No, I think, trying to think back early on when it first hit, there were some people out with possibly or possibly not for 2 weeks. That since then, April, May, June, nobody has been off ill. Nobody has had anything. We operate I'm not sure how familiar all of our listeners are going to be with the shop, but we obviously have displays.
Can you turn the camera around?
Yes.
Possible?
Oh, it's on.
We can see the shop.
Let's see. I'll move.
Here we
I'll
go.
move over. Yeah.
This is G&D's Little Clarendon Street.
Yep, the iconic mural there. There you go.
The social distancing in place.
Yes.
Ice creams on sale.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have the markings on the floor. Yeah.
Right, yes.
So that keeps people away from the counter, and because of the nature of the counter, our staff can move away as well. So if somebody approaches the counter, our staff can move away from the counter, so we can maintain the social distancing without needing the the barriers are essentially provided by the display units.
But you
People
haven't gone
cannot get very
cashless,
close to
have
us.
you?
Pardon?
You haven't gone cashless.
We have not gone cashless. It's up to people's choice. It's customers' choice whether they would like to pay by card or not.
Alan, you haven't gone cashless either, have you, in your shops?
No, we've tried to encourage people to pay by cards, but we appreciate that's not for everyone, and we want to, marginalise people that don't have cards or for some reason don't want to use them. So, from the point of view of, obviously, if the customers are using cash, they're using cash. From our till operators' point of view, they're wearing gloves and regularly sanitize their hands anyway, so they should be okay.
Yeah.
Now, Alan, didn't know, what does it tell you about shopping local, the pandemic? What lessons do you get from that?
Overall, so Jericho's very difficult because, like I say, we've seen a big downturn because of obviously the unique situation with students and things like that.
We're all difficult buggers in Jericho as well.
But overall, it's been fantastic. The co-op tends to be a very local store that people use. So we've seen, some of our stores have seen over 100%. So we've got a store in Swindon that it's not one of mine, unfortunately, but it's seen 120% increase. It's just down the road from the huge Asda in Swindon, if you know that at all. And people can't get in there. People are concerned about the social distancing in there. How busy it is, the lack of control. And I think people have decided that, they would much rather shop in a smaller local store where there is usually better controls on the social distancing.
So you think that your localness has come through?
It's definitely been an advantage, yeah. Having lots of small sites across our patch has helped. I think the big supermarkets have really struggled. They physically cannot get enough people in through their doors. They need to make them profitable for them at the moment. And I think
my wife I took my wife to Kidlington Sainsbury's the other day, and she came out shell shocked.
Yeah.
Shell shocked. She said, "I'm never doing that again." It said it was a zoo. There was no system.
Yeah, it's really difficult for them. I mean, obviously we do have some large supermarkets, and it is really difficult to control the customers, to make sure they are following the arrows, because and I can't say anything bad about Tesco's or Sainsbury's Asda because they've tried putting the POS in place, but they've just got such big buildings that you can't have somebody physically monitoring every customer that's in the store, and it's not a pleasant experience. I've been to the competitors, to see what they're like, and it isn't a nice experience. So I can see why people at the moment are choosing to shop with us. It will be interesting to see when the social distancing changes to 1 metre.
Yes.
See how that changes people's perception, because I think a lot of the supermarkets will probably become even more of a bum fight. I think that may well be the point where we see, are people making the decision because they don't want to queue outside or because they don't want the experience inside?
How long do you both think we'll be? Where's the end of the tunnel? Loredana, do you know?
I think we'll see. We're obviously not privy. It's just my own personal opinion from what I've seen on the news. I think we'll see a continued relaxation until probably the end of the summer. Certainly, as a business, we've got big concerns going into the winter, whether we'll see a second spike, and we've already started making preparations for that. And I think probably most retailers are in the position where, should anything happen in October, which seems to be the date everyone's talking about when a second spike might occur, we'll be in a position to react straight away. And obviously, having been through the experience, we'll have everything in place ready to go straight away.
Loredana, how long? When do you think we're out of the tunnel, and when will you have eating customers back in your place?
It's unclear when we'll have eating customers in place. I think that's a good point regarding Alan, regarding second wave. That's a big unknown. in terms of the markets returning to normal, we know that students are not going to be back in October in the usual kind of numbers. From what I've heard from various people about Oxford Union, Oxford Brookes, it might be a 50-50 blend of online learning and on-site learning. Tourists are not going to be back for a good year. So, and the economic impact of this is going to be felt throughout. And I think a lot of people will be much more careful with money. So in terms of spending, it won't be business as usual. So I think it's going to be a very, very long road to recovery. And hopefully, this is aside from having a second wave. This is all
Yes, 'cause
independent of that.
You and I both worked on getting Little Clarendon Street more noticed, but actually
Yes.
this is precisely the wrong thing. I mean, my guess is at least 3 businesses will close in Little Clarendon Street in the next 6 months, and much less Walton Street. So
And I think we will see more of that trickling through in the 6 months to a year, more and more businesses.
were you never tempted to take the government's money and close?
No, we opened in a recession in 1992, which were difficult conditions, and we felt that it's important to keep going.
Okay, Alan, were you never tempted to sort of give up and close shop?
No, we obviously had contingencies in case we had to. So obviously we've got a lot of stores, and if there was a serious case in a store where perhaps we had half the staff go down and we weren't able to trade, we had contingencies for what we would do if we had to close the store. But certainly from a food perspective, there was never any thoughts from our central teams that we would close the stores. It was always about making it as safe and as possible for our colleagues and customers to continue using us.
So when will you both return to profit? Any idea?
So from a food point overall, we're doing very well. So we're already ahead of last year's profit. Walton Street and Little Clarendon, you know, like I'm saying, we're very dependent on the universities. So when the universities come back to normal, we will see them go to profit. But that's not to say that we'd make any decisions. They're very good stores for us that have done a very good job over a long time. So, you know, we'll both keep trading them. Little Clarendon on reduced hours to make sure that we keep that store viable. But yeah, certainly. And again, I sometimes forget Walton Street, of course, did trade until midnight, didn't it? So again, we've got the reduced hours there until 10 o'clock, just to make the store viable. So yeah.
Well, we've taken similar measures too. We're on used to be 8 a.m. to midnight daily. We're at 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Daily, but we're moving to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays to see how that goes. How long before we are profitable again? I'd love to know that answer to that question. I think it's going to be a very, very long road, and it's been wonderful to have government assistance. It's helped a lot, but it's a short-term aid to a long-term illness in terms of the recovery. This is a long road to come back.
Has Deliveroo been any use to the two of you at all? Have you in home deliveries?
Deliveroo has augmented what we do, but they have such a big cut in terms of
30%,
what they take.
correct?
Yeah,
30%.
30%. So it's marginal. I think for us, it's been more a way to reach people who rightfully, couldn't leave the house or were vulnerable, etc., so that they had more options.
Alan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, as I sort of said at the start, our home delivery it's not profitable for us. So we've done it in conjunction with local community groups and the store themselves. So it certainly wouldn't have been worth us, unfortunately, using Deliveroo.
Okay, we're coming towards the end. What message have you got coming out of the pandemic, hopefully, for shoppers?
First of all, I'd just like to thank them for using our store because they do have the choice to shop everywhere else. I hope that we are delivering what they would expect from a cooperative store. And I really hope that they, we've built up enough goodwill and trust that they keep using us.
It's worth giving you 30 seconds. What is a cooperative store? Because people may not know.
A cooperative store is a store that invests its profits back into local community.
So it is truly a cooperative rather than profit making.
Yep.
Loredana, coming out of the pandemic, what message you want to give to your customers as summer gets hotter?
A big thank you for coming to see us. We've had many loyal customers and we've seen a lot of new faces, and we very much hope to see you into the future.
Okay, thank you both. Just time for a quick bit of advertising. Next Wednesday at 5 o'clock, we'll be exploring the new space in Jericho, just by the canal. There's a new piazza there, and I'm going to ask people to come along and say what their dreams are. What do they want doing there? It used to be a little bit run down, if I'm being careful in what I say. It's now got expensive York stone, and it will be replanted. So it's what do you want in that square? So join us at 5 o'clock next Wednesday, and thank you both. Bye now.